can't believe how much this place has grown. As you can see, we've not done much with it at all. This little tree growing down there. Look at those brambles and ferns. We've got quite the canopy now as well. We've had a few days of rain, but it's lovely today, so I thought I'd just come out for a brew. And I brought with me my oldest cook set. I've had some of this stuff over 10 years. So 10 years is probably enough time to be able to give you a good review. So I've got a number of different bits of kit which make up this cook set. I'll get them all out separately, show you what I've got and how they work together. Over the years I've had loads of different stoves. I've still got loads of different stoves. But this is my oldest stove. I've had this for at least 12 years. I say stove, but it's actually just a burner. The Trangia 27 burner. And if you want to boil water or cook with this, you're going to need some kind of pot or pan support. Now that could be something like the Trangia triangle, which I'm going to show you in a bit. But you could just use a couple of sticks or a couple of rocks to elevate your pot. The burner comes in 3 parts. You've got this top cover and simmering. I'll show you how that works in a minute. And then you've got a screw-on lid. It's got a rubber seal around it. So you can store your bioethanol or methylated spirits, your fuel, inside the burner. So in 12 years or so, I've had to replace this seal once. So they do deteriorate after a while, but you can, keep them optimum by putting a little bit of lubricant around them or Vaseline, something like that. That just lives in the lid there like that. So I think this is made out of brass. You can see that it's a bit tarnished over the years. That's the same. You pour your fuel in the top, and then there's like a chamber in this outside bit here, and there's little holes around the outside. So once it gets up to heat and pressure, these little holes become jets, and they give you a nice powerful flame, shall we say. Let's fire it up. That's the first problem that you can have with these stoves. You can't always tell whether they're lit. I just put my hand over the top of it, although if you get too close you can get burnt, so you need to be careful of that. To put the flame out, I just use the simmer ring like that, and then that just snuffs out all of the oxygen and puts out the flame. So I found that in colder weather this can be quite difficult to light just with your lighter. One method I've used to get around this is a little bit of tissue paper or kitchen roll. Just roll that up quite tightly. Probably want about that thickness. Just twist it round and just put that in there and just use it as a wick just to light it. It will burn away once your fuel's gone, but it guarantees that your stove will light. So after about 30 seconds to a minute, the pressure inside that chamber will increase, and it'll start jetting the fuel out those little tiny holes. See if I can, you can see them there. So you can't see it very well in this light, but that's just coming to a bloom now. You might be able to see the blue flames just coming out of it. You might also be able to see, although it's not very windy at all, the flame is really influenced by the slightest of breezes, so these work much better with some kind of windshield around them. So the simmering, what that does is it covers up these little holes, the jets, like that, and then you just have a smaller flame. So if you want to reduce the heat for maybe cooking a pancake or an omelette, then that really helps. But that simmering can get really hot now, so you need something to hold onto it with, maybe some pot grippers or a little pair of pliers. You could even use a knife or a stick, something like that, just to lift it on and off with. But you don't want to be doing that inside your tent, do you? Let's just put that out for a minute. Dead easy, look. But this is really hot now, so you have got to leave that for a little while to cool down. So one of the big pros about this is, now that fuel in there, it's saved, it's not wasted. I've not got to wait for it to burn out. Once it's cool anyway, I can put my lid on, screw it back on, and then we've got fuel in there ready for the next time. So you're not wasting fuel that way. So as you've already seen, that the flame from this can be quite large and erratic. So I don't find it the best tool for when it comes to cooking, because you haven't got very much control. Even with the simmering, it does reduce the heat output, but especially if you've got a windshield around it, the pressure gets quite high in here, so you still get a really large flame when you've got the simmering on. So you can, sometimes you need to have the simmering only that much open just to be able to cook with. Let me show you this next bit. This is called the Trangia triangle. So this is one of the older versions. They've since updated it, and it is a pot support for this particular burner. So these interlock. That's why it gets its name. And then you've got this little ring that pushes in here. And then that pushes the sides out a little bit, makes it a little bit more sturdy. And then you can put your burner inside. Now the theory is that gives you the perfect height from the top of the burner to the bottom of your pot. So you get good boil times and things like that. So I think I got the Trangia triangle back in 2015. So also back in 2015 I bought this. So this is the Pathfinder Canteen cup set. As you can see, the cup, I would say seen better days, but it's still just as good as it was when I bought it. It's just got a little bit of blackening in from cooking and going in the fire. I did get the lid that goes with it, which stays in as well, which is good. Got a strainer on, things like that. The stainless steel bottle, these are really good, really robust, virtually unbreakable, and surprisingly this only weighs, let me show you, 45 grams more than this Nalgene bottle, the same size. So but you're getting a lot more benefits from having the stainless steel version, because if anything happened to my pot, I could always boil water with this. Just take the lid off, because the lid is not fireproof or anything like that. Can't remember what it's called, that plasticky stuff. I've had no problems with this at all. The lids, the seal's always perfect on it. Here's the first big problem with the Trangia triangle. So this pot is about 95 millimeters in diameter, and it's just too small. It falls through the pot support. So if you put this on top of the burner directly, which you can't, it just extinguishes the flame. You need to have it raised above. So I used to just put a couple of tent pegs, stainless steel tent pegs, pretend these are those, just put them above the burner like that, and then I would put my pot on there like that. Although if you're using these wooden ones, they'd just burn and then your pot would collapse. And then somebody, Alan, forget your surname, Alan, quite a few years back, he sent me a couple of these that he'd made himself using his plasma cutter or whatever, and they just fit on top of there like that. Since then, very recently in fact, I think Trangia have made something similar. It's just like a wire frame. I've actually made one of those myself as well. Let me show you. This was from a wire coat hanger. Just basically I bent it round the shape of the Trangia triangle, and then that supports the pot as well. So there are ways around it, but I feel for the money you shouldn't have to have ways around it. Let's get a brew on and I'll show you one of the other flaws with this. So far I've been pointing out most of the flaws, but I love the simplicity of all this. The Pathfinder cup's got markers in there, which is really handy. These can get quite hot, so you need to be careful when you're picking the pot off the flame. So I did also buy, it's like a fish hook, so you could hang this pot as well. When it went through there, and then you could tie it to a bit of rope or a chain, but I seem to have misplaced that. So I paid £35 for this cup lid bottle back in 2015. I think the same thing's about £45 to £48 now, so it has gone up a bit, but you know, these are 10 years. This cup especially has had some real hammer. The bottle's been dropped. It's not been put in a fire, but I have put it on a gas stove before, and everything is perfect with it. Yeah, I've got no regrets whatsoever buying this Pathfinder set. Look at that flame there. You can see that it's quite erratic, and now that it is, you know, enclosed inside this pot support, the pressure sort of builds up because the heat's, you know, kept in there. So it's very difficult to control the flame height. Once this has boiled, I'll show you how difficult it is to use the simmer ring with this setup as well. You know, Trangia haven't thought it through at all when it comes to using that. I've actually got a windshield with me. Just see how much of a difference it makes. The flame now sticking to the bottom and outside of the pot. It's not blowing about all over the place. Yeah, so the triangle itself doesn't work great as a wind protector. Boils pretty quick. Just look how wild that is. And because there's still fuel in there, look at this wick. A little bit of tissue paper still not burnt away. One of the biggest problems for me when it comes to the Trangia. Let me get this off. Use what you've got. So the simmer ring, although you can fit it in with the triangle, it's really awkward. You know, you should just be able to just lower it on, take it off when you need to. You've sort of got to drop it in like that. It doesn't fit perfectly. If I want to adjust it now, it's see what I mean? Look at that. The simmer ring is like half open, but the flame's still quite wild and erratic because the fuel in there is really hot now. And if I want to close that up, you know, it's a bit of an operation, like chopsticks. You've got to hold the simmer ring, you've got to try and close it, or you can take it out with a bit of pliers or something like that, but touching it, it's red hot. Let me close that right up. And then if I want to get this back on, this will be hot, so it's, I feel like one of these corners could be cut out a little bit lower, so I could get this off a little bit easier. So now this is fully closed, or almost fully closed, it's difficult to even get it out. There we go. And then if you drop that on your footprint, you're in trouble, aren't you? Now I'm just going to close this off. See if we can put the flame out without burning me fingers. See, that's closed and it is still burning. Stick's broke, which doesn't help. Close that off. There we go, we got there eventually. So I blew that out about a minute ago, and that is cool enough to touch and move around now. The burner itself is still red hot, so that needs a little bit more time to cool. I'm not actually having a brew because I've just looked and I haven't brought a cup or any coffee with me, so unless I'm just drinking hot water. So what do I like and dislike about the Pathfinder cup and canteen set? So first of all, stainless steel, which I like. It's easier for, you know, if you want to cook a soup or something like that. I find it sticks less in stainless steel than it does in titanium. One of the cons is it weighs a little bit more than titanium, but it's not a lot. I don't know the exact weights, but yeah, I'm not going to notice carrying that in my pack over a titanium pot. The lid on it fits really well. There's no sort of, you know, silicone around the, you know, the handles or lid grip, which would make it so it's easier to to pick it up when it's hot. It's really robust. I say I've dropped this, I've knocked it over, I've not jumped on it or anything like that. Strainer works really well. You know, these little cutouts here are for that, you know, fish hook thing. So you line these up with these holes, drop it in there, and then the hook goes through there, and then you can hang it up. I'll show you with this. It's not like this, but it is a little bit like this. Yeah, so it fits in something like that, so you can hang it above your fire. Yeah, it's got markers in it which are good, although they only go from halfway up. And it would be better if the markers went all the way down, because sometimes you only want, yeah, it starts at 16 ounces or 500 millilitres. What if you want to measure out 250? You are guessing just what half of the cup is. The bottle is great. It only weighs 45 grams more than my plastic Nalgene bottle. You know, I could, if I wanted to, put it on there and boil water in the bottle, and it wouldn't cause any problems at all to the bottle. You would need some way, like the fish hook thing, you could put that inside the bottle as well and hang that up. I'm going to have to get another one of those, because it's hard work taking this off, you know, if you've got steam coming out the top there. I've got a few bits of Pathfinder gear, and it's the kind of stuff that it's a little bit heavier, but it's made to last. You should only need to buy this kind of stuff once. And to be honest with you, you know, I bought these are the first sort of cup and bottle set that I bought. It all nests together as well, so I can put the bottle inside the cup. The lid I just store underneath like that inside a bag. To be honest with you, this is all that I ever needed. You know, I've had all of these different titanium pots and aluminium pots, cook sets since then, and this does all of those things, just for a little bit heavier. That says more about my problem than the equipment problem. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Brilliant bit of kit. This setup, however, is not quite so cut and dry. So the burner, I've mentioned it in a video before, this is my favourite ever stove. I love it still. It never fails. I can always get a brew with it. Even if I've just got this, just keep that at the bottom of my bag with some fuel in it. As long as I've got something to boil the water in, I can get a brew. Just with a couple of sticks or a couple of rocks. Just get a couple of rocks or bricks, or just, you know, pound a couple of sticks into the ground. Get your burner in between, and you've got a pot support. Sometimes need to tweak things around a little bit, but I could get a cuppa just from this. The fact that you can just easily add fuel to it, look at that wick, still there. So it stores enough for a few cups of tea, but I can have fuel in there, so it's ready to go. I do keep it in this little bag that come with it nowadays, little Trangia bag, just in case it leaks. If this is in my backpack, you know, I don't want fuel getting into all my stuff. Wrap that up a couple of times, it's ready to go, obviously with the simmering on. Which brings me on to simmering. It's not great. You can still control the flame with the simmering, you know, but the flame is, it still can be quite erratic. And if you want to do things like baking, I found it really difficult with the Trangia. So it starts off really low, but if I left that, especially with a windshield around it, just for a few minutes, you know, that flame will suddenly get wild. In fact, I'll come back in a moment once the windshield's gone around it, and we'll see how wild that gets. So nothing's changed there, but the flame's just getting larger, as you can see. Just take that off, just to see, you might be able to see it better in bloom now. You can see the flame coming around those jets. Look how aggressive it is. It's good for boiling water, but yeah, I find that it gets through quite a lot of fuel, the burner as well. So I've got more efficient, you know, pop can stoves than this. Doesn't need all of that flame there, and a lot of it, once you've got your pot on, it's just wasted. It just gets lost from around the outside the pot. Yeah, even with the simmering on, look. Still quite bold. But overall, you know, I love this stove. It's never ever let me down. I can always get it to light, like I said, especially with the, you know, the little wick method. So I can always get a hot drink. I can always rehydrate a meal. But if you want to do some fine cooking, sometimes a little bit more difficult. Simmering over time gets quite stiff. Let's see, put it out first time that time. Other times you can put that on, especially when the fuel's really bubbling and it still just wants to push out the sides. You really have to keep your eye on things if you're cooking with this, because, as I said, aggressive flame. I've burnt no end of food using this. It's just not as much control as you can get with some gas stoves. Let's move on to this Trangia triangle. Although I have already put this down a little bit, it's got quite a lot going for it. Your burner fits in there securely. You know, if you've got a wider pan, it's really stable on there. So if you want to put a frying pan on or something like that, you are going to need something, either some tent pegs or manufacture something, or even buy the new Trangia, whatever it's called, just to put smaller pots and bottles and things like that on it. It's not designed well to be used with this. You know, just putting it on, you can get it in, you know, like halfway open. What if I wanted the simmer ring to be like that, fully open? I can't get it to fit in. Whereas if there was, you know, a little bit cut out here, so there was a lower end, you know, if the wind's coming from this side, I could still drop that in. You don't need much taking out, probably a centimetre down from each side of that, and then that would fit a lot better. It'd be easier to get it in and out. Yeah, might be worth looking at that Trangia. This also, you can keep this in your pack at all times because it takes up no space. It's really easy to put together. It's really easy to take apart. Stainless steel, so it's gonna last forever. There's nothing to break. It comes with a little bag as well. I've got a few bits in there, a little windshield. Like I said, there's one of those burner ring supports. So it's heavier than titanium stuff. It'll last you forever though. It's cheaper than titanium, but overpriced for what it is, I think. So although this setup isn't perfect, one thing to consider as well with that fuel in there, so it is quite fluid and live. If you were to accidentally knock that over, you know, you could easily start, you know, a forest fire. You could set fire to your tent. So yeah, you know, try not to overfill it. Try and be careful not to bash into it, anything like that. Do not fill it while it's still red hot. So if you run out of fuel, let it cool down a bit before you put some more fuel in there. But the big thing about this, although it's not a perfect setup, you know, I've had all of these for 10 years and they work exactly the same as they did 10 years ago. And in another 10 years, these will still work exactly the same as they did 20 years before. So I've heard where a few people's burners have cracked around there. I'm not sure why. Some theories are that if you let it run out of fuel, but you can buy them soldered around there, or you can solder them around there as well. But yeah, I don't let mine run out of fuel. Still in perfect working order. I've been thinking quite a lot lately about gear, and I love gear. I love trying new bits of equipment. You know, I love seeing if one bit of gear works better than another bit of gear, and I've sort of kind of made a job out of it anyway. But you know, when I go back to some of my original stuff, and I haven't got loads of it left now, it's still good gear, and you know, I didn't need anything else. You know, when it comes to alcohol burners, but once I've got the Trangia, you know, this will do pretty much everything I need any other alcohol burner to do. They've all got similar sort of pros and cons. Some are more efficient than others, but they're all difficult to control a flame. This cup and lid is as good as any other cup and lid that I've got. Probably stronger. I can do more things with it. I can definitely throw it in a fire. You can't throw some of the aluminium ones in a fire, can you? It might not boil as quick as a jet boil pot. This bottle, being stainless steel, is far more versatile than any of these Nalgene bottles and things like that. You can't stick them in a fire, you can't put them on a stove. Whereas this, I could collect water directly from the stream using this bottle. You know, don't put the lid on it, drop it straight in the edge of the fire, sterilise the bottle, sterilise the water. Yeah, great bit of kit. Can't think of anything else. If there's anything that I've missed or any questions you've got, let me know in the comments. Oh yeah, it's 10 years I've had these and still use them to this day, especially in this sort of environment. It's always a bit of a twig or something in your, ends up in your container, doesn't it? So I ain't got a proper bag for it. I did have one a long time ago, one of those Molly ones. Don't know what happened to it though. Probably with my little fish hook thing. This does the job. So what kind of gear have you got? Have you got some gear that you've had for 10 years plus? Do you still use it? Did you upgrade and then realise that the newer gear is not actually any better? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. See you next time.